Flooring has worn many costumes through history, from plain tamped earth to intricate and lavish decorations that required much expense and many man-hours to create. Today, vinyl flooring offers the homeowner enormous choices and options, from realistic reproductions like stone or brick to a wide range of new decorative designs or patterns. You can add to or change the look of your floor almost as easily as you can change your mind, and you can do it quickly and inexpensively. I'm Kurt Burbick, and this week's Do-It-Yourself show is all about vinyl flooring. You'll learn how to work with the several types on the market and how to make the most out of the design possibilities they offer. And after you've seen the companion shows to this one, ceramic tile and hardwood flooring, you'll be well equipped to handle almost any floor remodeling project. Now here's Avian Rogers to tell you just exactly what we've got in store for today's show.
Vinyl's been a popular finished flooring material for years, and for good reason. It's good looking, practical, and easy to work with. If you look at it in terms of installation methods, there are three main types of vinyl flooring: a perimeter bonded, full spread adhesive, and self-adhesive square tiles. Now the full spread adhesive and perimeter bonded are usually called sheet vinyls. The tiles are typically 12 by 12 square and have a self-adhering backing, often called sticky back. We'll be showing you how to install all three today. Now here in the kitchen we're going to use a perimeter bonded type flooring. Since the room is so large, we'll have to do a two-piece installation, which means we'll have a seam running down somewhere in the room. There are a few tricks to be aware of this, so we'll spend some special attention on this process once we come to it. For this bathroom, the pattern that we like came in a sheet vinyl requiring a full spread adhesive type installation. So that's what we'll be doing in here. Up here in our attic addition, we're going to install self-adhesive sticky back vinyl tile. Fitting this square tile into our round turret is going to be an interesting challenge. But before we get on to our first project, let's go take a look at the tools we'll need for all of our flooring projects. Kurt?
We should talk for a moment about the tools you'll need for installing vinyl flooring. The exact combination, of course, will depend on the material you're putting in, the condition of your existing floors, and the installation method you've chosen to use. You might conceivably need any of the following things: a notch blade knife, scissors, a notched trowel, a screwdriver and a putty knife, a tape measure, a handsaw, a seam roller, a seam sealer kit, an installation kit, a straight edge, a chalk line, a hammer and flooring nails, a staple gun, adhesives and an adhesive trowel, and masking tape. Oh, one more thing. You may want to have a rolling pin handy. Why a rolling pin? Well, stick with us and I promise to show you later in the program. Now, Avian's in the kitchen and she'll be installing perimeter bonded vinyl flooring, so she could skip most of the usual preparation steps required for most flooring material.
We've removed the furniture and appliances, and now we're taking off this quarter round. That way when we put our new flooring on, we can run it right up against the edge of the baseboard. Then when we're finished, we'll replace the quarter round to hide any minor imperfections along the edges. And we'll get a nice, neat-looking job that way. I'm using a stiff-bladed putty knife and a screwdriver to pry it off. It's going so fast, I think I'll be done in a few minutes.
To make our floor fit more easily here, we can cut off the bottom of this door molding using this saw and supporting the blade with a scrap piece of cardboard.
Most floors don't need much prep, as they're already covered by an existing floor that's basically in good shape. Changing floors is merely a matter of laying a new layer of vinyl over the old. What you want is an even, consistent surface. And we'll be talking a little bit more about prep later on in the show.
Right, and this perimeter bonded flooring we're using here doesn't require any adhesive, except in a few special places, because it gets held down with staples all around the outside edge. You won't see them because they'll get covered up with a quarter round molding we'll be adding. Also, with perimeter bonded flooring, You don't need to be too concerned about how clean the old floor was, except to give it a good sweeping. And the resilient back means that you don't need to worry too much about the floor being perfectly level or flat. This kind of floor will actually contract slightly, tightening like a drum head over the next 24 to 48 hours.
The kitchen measures 13 feet 6 inches by 14 feet 3 inches. To cover it, we're going to need 2 pieces, since our vinyl comes in 12-foot wide rolls. That gives us a seam running over our floor area. We can't use staples to attach it since they would show, so we'll use adhesive, and the thin floor strip area underneath our seam needs to be free of any wax or finish so that our adhesive can get a good bond between our new flooring and our old floor.
A big part of putting down sheet vinyl flooring is making accurate measurements and then cutting accurately. The best way is to make a paper template, working with your existing floor to get the correct dimensions, and then using that same template, transfer those dimensions to your new piece of flooring material. Now, butcher paper or craft paper, or that paper that comes with those do-it-yourself installation kits, works wonderfully. Ready, Avian? Mm-hmm. Just make sure you tape it to the floor so that it doesn't move or shift while you're doing your work.
Now we're overlapping and taping our paper edges, keeping our paper as flat and smooth as possible as we go.
A little trick to keep your paper from slipping around is to cut a triangle in the template, and that'll give you a place where you can tape your paper to the floor.
Oh, that's great. Getting your pattern for small areas is easy too, by taking smaller pieces of paper and matching the particular irregularities, and then tape it to your overall paper template.
A lot of rooms have irregular, odd-shaped, or just hard-to-fit around pieces like these radiator pipes. Here we can just slide our paper up to the pipe, cut a slit at the center line so that the paper will fit around the pipes and up to the wall. And then make some slits to form the hole around the pipe. And now we can just tape this piece of paper to the template, and we'll be ready to go. Where the molding hasn't been undercut to receive the sheet vinyl flooring and you've got a complicated shape like we have here, you can simply crease and fold your paper around the shape and cut it to fit. And then this piece of paper can be taped to the main template piece.
I'm using this little roller disc out of the installation kit to transfer our perimeter of the floor onto the paper template. The instructions say to leave a gap between the edge of the paper and the wall. Now it might seem like we're going to end up short by using this template to cut our flooring to size, doesn't it, Kurt?
Well, not really. There's actually a couple of things to watch out for when you're trying to transfer the wall outline onto the paper. First, if you're using the installation kit, you want to put your paper down so it's about a ½ inch away from the wall. Then, when you use this wheel roller, it will transfer the wall outline 1 full inch away from the wall onto the paper. And of course, you're going to want to transfer that 1 inch back onto your vinyl when you cut it, and we'll show you how to do that in just a little while.
Where you've been able to undercut around your moldings or jambs so that your vinyl floor can slip underneath, you don't need to cut around it. You only need to make a continuous straight line. If you're not using an installation kit, you can use your paper pattern itself to get the perimeter of your floor by pushing it up against your wall and either marking it or creasing it. You want to be accurate and you want to handle your paper pattern carefully so that you don't damage your pattern edges. Another alternative is you can take a ruler or a paint stir and use that as a marking guide along your wall in lieu of the roller disc that we just showed you. And mark on your paper like this.
Something else that helps. Mark your paper template identifying the location of any objects you've had to fit around, so that later you can check their relative position when you're cutting your sheet vinyl. Once you're done preparing this template, your room should have a paper floor.
Okay, it looks like we're ready for our moment of truth. Why don't we roll it up, take it upstairs, and we'll cut it and we'll see how well we've done our job.
Let's do it. We need to get an accurate transfer of our dimensions from our paper template onto our vinyl flooring material. But first, we need to cut and tape our seam together. And like most things, there's a bit of a trick to this.
We unrolled our flooring material on a clean, flat, smooth surface, avoiding any kinks and handling carefully as the material can tear fairly easily.
We gave our floor a thorough cleaning so we wouldn't get any gritty material embedded in the vinyl that would later work its way through.
Since this is a two-piece installation, you want to overlap your two pieces in the area of your seam. Where you're working with a pattern that's strongly pronounced, where pattern matching is critical, you want to be sure that your two pieces go in the same direction as they came off your roll. We taped our two pieces together along our seam line to hold it securely while we cut. I'm using a good sharp utility knife and a straight edge and cutting through both layers at the same time. This is called double cutting. And by pulling the scraps away that result, we get a perfectly fitting edge right along our seam. Now, getting a good looking seam isn't difficult. Usually there are pattern markings like grout lines that are excellent for camouflaging our cuts.
If you should feel at all shaky about doing this, you may want to practice with some scrap material before getting into the real thing. Now, once you've made your cut, go ahead and tape it together. We're ready to start positioning our paper template on our flooring material. We do that so that our seam will occur in a low traffic area of the room, as opposed to, say, the entryway to the kitchen, which would be over here. Also, we position the paper so that our ink line will be parallel to a grout line in our vinyl pattern, so the whole thing will be square to the room. Once the paper is positioned, we can start taping it down through these triangular shaped holes that we cut earlier. And having done that, we're ready to start transferring our outline onto the face of the vinyl.
One thing we definitely don't want to do now is to forget to add our inch from our paper template onto our vinyl floor material. To do this, I'm using a straight edge, which is 1 inch wide. That's the exact same dimension as the roller disc that we use to transfer our floor dimensions onto our paper template.
We've removed our paper pattern and we're ready to start cutting our flooring to fit the kitchen. A notch-bladed knife works really well for this, and a lot of the installation kits come with these included.
Okay, Kurt, can you get around that corner?
Just barely. Good.
All right. Oh, good. Okay.
All right, now we need to get this piece tucked into the corner first.
Okay. So, we getting a good fit down there?
We've come your way just a couple of inches.
All right.
Okay, we've got it in here pretty snugly. Now we can start unrolling
Here,
it.
let me lift up my end.
Okay.
Hey, can you get it under that cabinet? Oh, great.
Okay, now we can
Right.
start bringing it over.
All right. We're almost there. How you doing then? Oh, watch out for the seam. Okay. Almost home. We got a nice fit around this corner and around the pipes, and these seams are going to disappear. Great.
Well, we've got our flooring into position now, and we can start doing some gluing in special places. We'll start here with the seam. First, we need to take the masking tape off. Avian, want to grab that?
Yeah.
Once it's off, I can fold back one of the sides and put a pencil mark on the floor underneath using this piece as a straight edge. This pencil line is a guide for putting down our adhesive. To start applying the adhesive, I first need to gently fold back the edges of the vinyl flooring, and I've temporarily taped them into place, as you can see. Now, with this wooden applicator, I'll put the adhesive on the pencil line, and I'll use my notched tooth metal trowel here to spread the adhesive out in a 3-inch wide band all the way along that pencil line, 1.5 inches on each side of it. Now, certain adhesives require a wider band, so just make sure you check your instructions when you're doing this. Now, I'll apply the adhesive all the way down to about a foot or so away from the cabinets. And the reason for that is that after I've folded the vinyl back in place and rolled it, I'll want to be able to fold the vinyl back out from underneath the cabinets to apply adhesive there. Now that my adhesive has been applied, I can start folding my vinyl back into place. I'll start with a big piece first, pressing it into the adhesive. Then I'll take my second side, put it into place, and make sure that it butts up tightly against the edge of the first piece. Now I can come back with my seam roller, going along the seam and pressing the vinyl into the adhesive, making sure that there are no ledges. To prevent moisture from getting underneath the floor at this point, we're going to use this seam sealer kit. Read and follow the instructions carefully. It's important to hold the bottle at the proper angle while you're applying the solvent. And don't wipe any excess solvent up. Now, the nice thing about using this stuff is that it'll make your seam almost completely disappear.
Staples are great for making most of our necessary attachments along the edges of our vinyl flooring. They're fast, they've got excellent holding power, and we don't have to worry about temperature and humidity like we do at times with adhesive. Still, where the staples are going to show, we'll have to use adhesive, like we did here at our door opening and along our cabinet kick plate.
Now, finishing was simply a matter of replacing this quarter-round baseboard molding that we took off at the beginning of the job. And that'll cover up the staples that hold the floor in place around the outside edges. Now, you'll probably want to mop your floor right away, but you should wait 3 to 5 days to allow the adhesives to set up completely.
The beauty of the perimeter bond floor is that it tightens like a drum after installation, and an occasional mopping with a mild detergent will keep the floor looking its best.
Well, now that this floor is ready to go, why don't we go see what Avian's up to?
Since the pattern we like is a full spread adhesive type material, we're using a somewhat different method of installation. Now, we made a paper template just like we did down in the kitchen. Our space here is smaller, so we didn't have any seams to worry about. Here we're using flooring adhesive, and you want to be sure that you're using the right kind of trowel or applicator recommended by your adhesive manufacturer. This trowel has got a notched edge. They're inexpensive and oftentimes disposable. When applying your adhesive, you want to apply it evenly across the entire floor area, using your tool at a slight angle, like I'm doing here. Okay, now that's it for our adhesive. Now we're ready to put our floor down. Want to be careful with the edges. We've got a real nice fit around our radiator pipes, Now, if you've cut carefully around your irregular objects, like this commode or radiator pipes, it makes fitting in the floor a lot easier. Oh, we've got a nice fit right around here. Careful with this piece. Wrap it around. Oh, beautiful. Okay, that looks real nice. Right up along the tub here. Check our edges. Our seam back here looks very good. Okay, so we'll have to smooth it out then. Okay, it looks like we're about done.
Not
Hey,
quite.
What's that for?
It's a rolling pin that I showed you earlier in the program.
Well, what does it do?
Well, it's used to get a better bond on the floor. Here, let me show you.
Okay.
You roll the floor from the center toward the outside. And you can really put your weight on it, and it helps to work the bubbles out, and it presses the vinyl into the adhesive.
Well, Kurt, while you do that, I think I'll be rolling along.
As you may remember from previous shows, we've been trying to convert this attic into a living space for some time now. Today we decided to tackle the problem of this floor. It was a mess. It was so grungy and uneven that we had to do some serious prep work before we could even start to think about putting down any tile.
For structural reasons, we added a layer of 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood. Then, to get a better finished result with our square tiles, we added an additional layer of underlayment plywood.
The critical part of the process here is that you should plan the layout of your underlayment so the seams don't line up with the seams of the subfloor underneath. And you should put in plenty of flooring nails, not only along the edges, but out here in the field.
Working with square tiles can be quite different from working with sheet vinyls.
One immediate difference is that with tile, you work from the center of your room out. That means you need to get a chalk line to mark the center of your room like we've done here.
You probably want to have 5 to 10% more than the total square footage you're covering to allow for waste and replacement. You can also use scissors to cut or trim your vinyl tiles.
Acclimate your tiles to room temperature by storing them in open boxes in your room overnight. This is particularly important if you're working with tiles that are going to get installed over a concrete floor.
Since we lay the tiles working from the center out, dividing the room into 4 quadrants, we needed to determine our starting points.
So we marked the midpoint on the 2 opposite walls so we could snap this line.
In order that your border tiles or edge tiles are as close to full size as possible, you may find that you have to adjust your center line to one side or the other, particularly should your border tiles be anything less than 6 inches. To begin laying our tiles, we determined our starting point by dividing our chalk line in 2. Then we carefully placed our first tile so that it ran right along our chalk line. Then we continued to run tiles out from that point, determining our first working quadrant in which we'll lay tiles into the corner. Also, these tiles are installed with a certain direction, which is indicated on the back by an arrow.
Now I want to cut a border tile to fit in up against the wall. And it always helps if the tile is warmed up a little bit. It'll cut easier. Now here's the trick to cutting a tile to fit perfectly in here, even though the wall may be slightly out of line with the edge of these tiles. Lay the tile down that you want to cut squarely on top of the tile that's in place on the floor. Now take another loose tile and butt it up against the wall so it overlaps the tile you want to cut. Now this tile becomes a straight edge for cutting this one. Use a utility knife and score the top of the tile that's on the floor. Now, this one should break right along that line, and then I can just take it, and it should fit perfectly into place.
Fitting square tiles into irregular curved walls like our turret space isn't difficult. It just is all custom work. Now we're using a variation on our paper template idea. We cut several pieces of butcher paper the exact shape of our square tiles. Then we put the paper into position and crease the edges carefully into the curve as neatly as possible. Then with our paper shape, we put it onto the tile, making sure that we're going the right direction. Okay, fit it squarely in place. Then I take my utility knife and score along our crease. That way we'll get a line on our tile. Now, with our mark creased onto our tile, I'll go over it one more time. Now, I could heat this with the blow dryer, as you saw Kurt did, but this tile breaks pretty easily and neatly along that line, like so. Pull back the paper backing and pop it into place.
We like the idea of installing this 2.5-inch white vinyl wall base as a part of our blue and white color theme.
And this just about wraps up this phase of our attic project. In later shows, we'll be installing things like skylights, window treatments, and a spiral staircase. But we enjoy every phase of its progress. You shall see. Each major improvement seems to require a bigger celebration. We're thrilled with the progress of the attic. It's really become an attractive part of the house, even though we still have a lot left to do. Kurt, to the attic.
To the attic. One of the nicer things about working with vinyl flooring is that you don't have to work very hard and you don't have to work very long. In just a few weekends' time, we've added tremendously to both the value of this home and to its appearance.
With proper care, a vinyl floor's luster should last for years and return many times the satisfaction of having done a good job of installing it.
I'm Kurt Burbick.
And I'm Avian Rogers.
And thanks for being with us.